Scientists believe there may be dozens or possibly even more than 100 dwarf planets awaiting discovery in the solar system. Estimates are even up to 200 dwarf planets that could be found when the Kuiper belt is explored, and that number may exceed 10,000 when objects scattered outside the Kuiper belt are considered. But the differences between planets and dwarf planets may not be obvious at first. So what exactly is a dwarf planet and what differentiates a dwarf planet from a planet? As their name suggests, the main difference between a dwarf planet and a planet is size. Because they are smaller, dwarf planets lack the gravitational forces needed to pull in and accumulate all of the material found in their orbits. Planets have enough gravity to push other smaller objects, but dwarf planets do not. Each known dwarf planet in our solar system is actually smaller than Earth's moon. The world was introduced to dwarf planets in 2006 when Petite Pluto was stripped of its planet status and reclassified as a dwarf planet. As we continue to unearth these giant facts about dwarf planets, remember to subscribe and click on the bell for regular updates on more exciting topics. Give us a thumbs up, and let us know you like our fascinating excursions into the greatest mysteries of the cosmos. According to the International Astronomical Union, which sets definitions for planetary science, a dwarf planet is a celestial body that orbits the Sun, has enough mass to assume a nearly round shape, has not cleared the neighborhood around its orbit, and is not a moon. That means, aside from any moons it might have, the planet can't share its orbit with other objects of comparable size. You may be wondering, why is Pluto classified as a dwarf planet? Because it has not cleared the neighborhood around its orbit, Pluto is considered a dwarf planet. The resolution that led to the classification of Pluto as a dwarf planet was not without its share of controversy. Some planetary scientists objected to the third criterion because they believed a planet, and therefore a dwarf planet, should be judged based on its intrinsic qualities. They think it is not about what is or isn't in its orbital path. The International Astronomical Union officially recognizes only 5 dwarf planets in our solar system. They are Ceres, Haumea, Makemake, Eris, and Pluto. Several dozens more are being considered for the category, and scientists estimate that hundreds or even thousands of dwarf planets may exist in the solar system. Just like planets, dwarf planets also have natural satellites. Pluto has 5 moons, Haumea has 2, and Eris has 1. Makemake has 1 provisional moon. Ceres is the only dwarf planet without a known moon. The order of the dwarf planets from closest to the Sun outwards is Ceres, Pluto, Haumea, Makemake, with Eris being the furthest from the Sun. The best-known dwarf planet, Pluto, is also the largest in size and the second largest in mass. Pluto has 5 moons. The largest, Charon, is over half the size of its host. Pluto's orbit is not circular like those of the other planets, and it actually crosses Neptune's orbit, which means that Pluto is sometimes closer to the Sun than Neptune is. It takes Pluto nearly 250 years to complete one trip around the Sun. Not much was known about Pluto before NASA's New Horizons mission. Launched in 2006, the spacecraft took nearly 9 years to reach its target. The mission revealed that Pluto's surface features plains and mountains made of nitrogen ice and water ice. This fascinating world has blue skies, spinning moons, mountains as high as the Rockies, and it snows, but the snow is red. There are theories that life may exist on Pluto because it has a thin atmosphere and liquid water. However, scientists have found that Pluto's atmosphere is mostly nitrogen and methane gas, which is toxic to humans. Ceres is the earliest known and the smallest of the dwarf planets. It was discovered in 1801 by Sicilian astronomer Giuseppe Piazzi. It is only 590 miles in diameter and has a mass of just 0.015% of the Earth. It is classified as both a dwarf planet and an asteroid. Ceres is the largest resident of the main asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars. It is also the first dwarf planet to be visited by a spacecraft. There have only been 2 visits by space probes to dwarf planets. In 2015, NASA's Dawn and New Horizons missions reached Ceres and Pluto. Pluto, Haumea, Eris and Makemake are also known as Plutoids, unlike the asteroidal dwarf planetoid Ceres. A Plutoid is a dwarf planet with an orbit outside that of Neptune. Plutoids are sometimes also referred to as ice dwarfs due to their cold surface temperatures and diminutive size. Ceres is one of the few places in our solar system where scientists would like to search for possible signs of life. Ceres has something a lot of other planets don't have, which is water. Here on Earth, water is essential for life, so it's possible that with this ingredient and a few other conditions met, life possibly could exist there. If anything does live on Ceres, it's likely to be very small microbes similar to bacteria. If Ceres does not have living things today, there may be signs it harbored life in the past. The word Makemake is Polynesian in origin, and the dwarf planet Makemake was named after a creator god from the myths of the Rapa Nui, the native people of Easter Island. Dwarf planet Makemake is a member of a group of objects that orbit in a disk-like zone beyond the orbit of Neptune called the Kuiper Belt. This distant realm is populated with thousands of miniature icy worlds, which formed early in the history of our solar system about 4.5 billion years ago. These icy, rocky bodies are called Kuiper Belt objects, trans-Neptunian objects, or Plutoids. Slightly smaller than Pluto, Makemake is the second brightest object in the Kuiper Belt as seen from Earth, while Pluto is the brightest. It takes about 305 Earth years for this dwarf planet to make one trip around the Sun. We can't see too many details of Makemake's surface from so far away, but it does appear to be a reddish-brownish color, similar to Pluto. Scientists have also detected frozen methane and ethane on its surface. In fact, pellets of frozen methane as big as half an inch, 1 centimeter, in diameter may rest on Makemake's cold surface. Is there potential for life on Makemake? The surface of Makemake is extremely cold, so it seems unlikely that life could exist there. Haumea shares its name with the Hawaiian goddess of fertility and childbirth, and the dwarf planet's moons are named after her offspring. Haumea was discovered in 2004 in the Kuiper Belt beyond the orbit of Neptune. Although it takes the dwarf planet 285 Earth years to complete a trip around the Sun, Haumea spins on itself in under 4 hours. Astronomers believe that this fast rotation has deformed Haumea into an ellipsoid, which is egg-shaped. This dwarf planet may even be the only Kuiper Belt object to have rings. Scientists announced the discovery in 2017 after watching the dwarf planet pass in front of a star. With a radius of about 620 kilometers, Haumea is about 1/14 the radius of Earth. If Earth were the size of a nickel, Haumea would be about as big as a sesame seed. With very little known about Haumea's surface and atmosphere. Astronomers believe Haumea is made of rock with a coating of ice. Is there potential for life? Haumea is extremely cold and doesn't appear to have conditions suitable for life. Located beyond the orbit of Neptune, Eris was first discovered in January 2005. The discovery of this denser dwarf planet may have been the turning point that forced astronomers to reconsider Pluto's classification as a planet. To illustrate this disruption, Eris was named after the Greek goddess of discord. Eris is one of the largest known dwarf planets in our solar system. It's about the same size as Pluto but is 3 times farther from the Sun. From an average distance of 10,125,000,000 kilometers, Eris is about 68 astronomical units away from the Sun. From this distance, it takes sunlight more than 9 hours to travel from the Sun to the surface of Eris. Is there potential for life? Eris most likely has a rocky surface similar to Pluto. Scientists think surface temperatures vary from about minus 359 degrees Fahrenheit to minus 405 degrees Fahrenheit. The surface of Eris is extremely cold, so it seems unlikely that life could exist there. The dwarf planet is often so far from the Sun that its atmosphere collapses and freezes, falling to the surface as snow. As it gets closest to the Sun in its faraway orbit, the atmosphere thaws. Dwarf planets are often overlooked, but they are definitely worth a second look. They are far away from the Sun and have their own atmosphere, which makes them extremely different than other planets in our solar system. Each dwarf planet is interesting and unique in its own way.